They say opposites attract.
Well, how about these opposites? Daddies and sons.
You're listening to Daddy and Son.
A podcast where we explore the dynamics of daddy and son relationships, multi-generational views.
And everything else in between.
Welcome back to Daddy and Son. My name is Alex.
And I'm Norm.
And today we're going to be talking about kinks. Yes, kinks. All the things kinks and...
Winks and kinks.
Winks and... That's a good one.
Sometimes kinks stink too.
Fair point. And
Depends on what list you have in front of you, though, doesn't it?
that is...
I haven't seen the
You
list
can't
yet.
see how... You can't see my face.
Of course, we don't. And one rule is we're not telling anybody what our kinks are, if we even have any. We're talking about kinks generally, correct?
Yeah, we're talking about them generally. I mean, I do have a few stories to share because, in my 30 years of living, I've just been through quite through the ringer. I have stories to tell.
Do tell. Am I twice as many? I probably have twice as many kinks, or would you think it's probably half as many? With you, it's probably half as many, yeah. But anyway, carry on.
But yeah, before we get into that, let's do just a quick wellness check-in. How are you doing? How was your week?
It was great. And this is a long weekend coming up here in Toronto, in Canada. And in fact, I wanted just to salute to we have a lovely cava we're drinking this week. And it's a year ago this weekend, Memorial Day, the Victoria Day weekend, that we sat down in Gusto 101 over on Portland Street and had lunch, and we said, why don't we do a podcast? So this is, ladies and gentlemen, our 1 year anniversary, and we've been hard at work, and especially you.
That is exciting to even think of. It seems like, when I'm looking outside the weather and everything is so gray and wet, it's springtime, and I can barely even remember such a time, because I remember when we were sitting on that patio discussing those articles, and the article turned into me suggesting a podcast.
Exactly.
It was sunny. It was hot.
Yeah, no, it was a beautiful weekend. But it will be nice tomorrow. It's just kind of lousy right now. But
yeah, I saw the whole weekend is supposed to be nice. It's supposed to be nice. But aren't you going to ask me how I'm doing?
And how are you doing, Alex? I'm sorry. I forgive me for being so... I figured you were going to tell us anyway, but anyway, Garrett, carry on.
I am good. I had a very dramatic week. Since we last recorded, I've had a few health issues and been in and out the hospital, and just recently found out, actually earlier today, that I'll be going on blood pressure medication soon, because what is sexier than a son being on blood pressure medication?
Well, son, how is it that I'm only finding out about this now and not during the week when you were going through this?
Well, this, like I
I'm
said...
I'm a little disturbed about it. We'll talk about this offline. But anyway, you're looking fine. Every time I see you, you look healthy as a horse. So it's hard to believe that you've had any health issues.
It's so funny because, just like when I was talking about it in the our wellness segment or wellness episode, I did mention sometimes it's really hard because when you look you present in a particular way, people don't think of you or look at you or compute that you may have non-visible or invisible disabilities that affects you on a day-to-day basis. But otherwise, good stuff. Shout out to on the good stuff. That is, shout out to my girl Ramina. It was her birthday last weekend. We celebrated her birthday at Jerusalem restaurant. Really good time, hype. The belly dancers. It's a Middle Eastern restaurant. It's one of those few, I want to say, sacred grounds where whether you're Jewish or whether you're Palestinian or Lebanese, everybody in that room got together to eat some really delicious za'ata and grape leaves and
Grape leaves as opposed to grapes themselves?
it's a dish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You have such
And,
interesting exposure to
and
to things.
tabbouleh and all these different amazing Middle Eastern foods that I just absolutely love. You'd love it. We gotta go sometime. It's
Yeah.
all the way in North York though, so it's a road trip, but it's definitely worth it.
Look, there's great restaurants. Frankly, they're better up in the suburbs than they are here. I mean,
I tell
Asian
people that,
restaurants and Italian.
especially especially the Asian restaurants.
Asian and Italian.
You know, the only place to get Wagyu in all of Toronto is in Markham.
And I don't know. You see, this is a generational issue. You know younger people who are a very diverse ethnic
Culture,
background,
yeah.
and you've gone to these
yeah.
restaurants, you've eaten these foods. I haven't heard of half of the foods you talk about sometimes.
See, this is why you gotta diversify your portfolio.
Well, look, I know a lot about Italian food because when I was growing up, and this is kind of off topic for the subject, but the folks that we knew as immigrants when I was growing up were Italians.
Yeah,
So
that
I
makes
know
sense
what are the Italian
in,
food
in Niagara
tastes like.
Falls.
Yes.
And some of the best Italian food I've actually had in Canada came from Niagara Falls, ironically. Yeah. Yeah, so
didn't know that.
that makes sense. That shout out to I think it's Armadillos. Shout out to Armadillos in Niagara Falls. Beautiful restaurant.
Haven't
really
lived
good.
there for 40 years, so I don't know.
But yeah, I just want to wish my girl a wonderful happy birthday week. Our birthday week is, I guess, going to end today. And shout out to Jerusalem, the great staff. Everyone there was amazing. The belly dancers were entertaining. They were engaging. The food was on point. I want to go there again, and we're going to go there together.
Can I ask a question? Were the bellies flat or were they like people of my age?
There's a diverse.
I see.
It was diverse.
Oh, that's
it was
good.
versatile.
Versatile and diverse. Well, isn't that the way things should be? Aren't we all one happy family here in Toronto?
With that being said, welcome back to another episode of Daddy and Son, where we discuss everything and anything from a multi-generational point of view. As I mentioned, today we're going to be discussing kinks. And when I talk about kinks, I'm talking about, yes, exactly what you're thinking, what it is that folks like to do in bed. When I talk about kinks, or when I say the word kinks, what comes to your mind, Norm?
I think something that's pleasurable, something that a couple consent to do, something
Consent.
that enriches the sexual and intimate experience. Although there are some kinks that are non-sexual, so there's some that can take place outside the bedroom or outside the bed.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, I think I think it's a natural part of sexuality and a natural part of being human.
I've never thought of it that way, but I like that. I like that because part of what the scope of the discussion today is that I would like to demystify kinks, and even if they're not for you per se, I think oftentimes kinks are they're demonized, and people with kinks are villainized, and what I want to do is destigmatize and normalize kinks in relationships. It can be healthy as it can be unhealthy. And you said a very important word earlier, consent.
Yes.
Because it doesn't make sense if two people don't agree to get on the same page and be into or even try the same things, you know?
Yep.
So one of the things that I believe folks should be doing is communicating, especially when you're dating. In the dating stage, don't and I'm not saying that people don't grow or change or their tastes don't evolve as time goes by, or digress, or regress. I once went with a dinner while I was in Jamaica with an old
The last trip, the one we were
yes,
there
the
together.
one we were
Okay.
in, an old fling of mine, and they asked if I was still into X, Y, and Z, and I said, God no, and it was something that I'm not even going to say on air.
And what was his reaction?
And he was like, oh, because you were really big into that when we were kids. And I was like, yeah, but emphasis, we were kids. I've grown older and wiser. Actually, I will say it because I know some of my old classmates, they listen to this program, so they know I used to have this thing for blood. And back in the day, I remember even when I was in school, I was in a culinary class, and one of the girls, she had cut her finger, and I just took her finger while they were looking for the first aid kit, and I just stuck it in my mouth. And I know it sounds gross, but I just had this weird thing for blood back in the day. I have no idea. Maybe it was something psychological, maybe it was a nutritional deficiency, maybe I needed some iron.
Perhaps you were, born in to be in a medical career or something like that, which you haven't pursued, of course.
Which I haven't.
Well, I must say, I'm trying to be non-judgmental here. That's one that kind of surprises me, but I'm glad to know that you've grown out of that.
Well, and that's why I'm saying communication.
Yes.
Where you're at, where you're at, and because it doesn't matter about even the past. It just matters about where you're at right
the experience
now.
you're having with your partner
right
at that moment.
And being able to have negotiations, right? About your comfort levels and your boundaries and what are the essential components to what satisfy you, what turns you on
Erotically,
where your
erogenous zones.
Thank you. I don't know why that word was.
Norm is the walking dictionary today, folks.
Come through with the diction, Norm. Thank you.
Addiction.
Your erogenous spots and zones. Have communication about that, because, and even if you're in a relationship, where you are and who you are and what satisfies you today may not be what satisfies you 5 years from now.
Because couples can explore different things.
Absolutely.
Hey, I like that. I will let on that I have been seeing somebody recently, and I discovered recently something that he likes, that I thought, oh, you like doing that? I didn't know that. And it was kind of neat. And I thought, okay, that's something we can do next time, maybe. So it's funny, kinks are something that come and go.
And yeah, exactly. It may just be, I don't know, but for me, a lot of the kinks that I have explored or probably things that I saw in movies. Or we're going to touch about that later when we talk about media representation. But it may be something I saw in movies, or I saw something in porn, and I was just like, I want to try that.
Or how about your imagination?
Or my imagination. That's where the blood went, to be honest. And then I was just like, no, this is not for me. Right? But at what point do you... if you're in love with someone, right?
Yeah.
And you want to do everything to please that person, when is it okay to say, yes, I will try, or no, that's a hard limit for me? Because even in my situation, and I've even I remember once I spoke to my therapist about this, about an ex that I had who did just refuse to eat ass. Just refuse. And my therapist, who was a woman, she said, well, if you don't eat ass, his ass is grass. And I remember, this is a woman. I'm not going to name her name on this podcast, but shout out to Dr. Her. Shout out to her, because I remember thinking to myself, yeah, it's like, this turns me on, but he just doesn't want to eat my ass.
Well, you know
I'm
what?
just like,
sorry, then you won't do that.
What is it? And is it okay? Because, and I want to hear from listeners as well, but
Is what okay?
is it okay for me to make that as a boundary for myself as much as this person is making it a boundary for them?
Well, if it's something you want, why not ask for it, invite it? But if that person isn't interested in providing it, okay, what's the next one on the list? I mean, sorry.
Does that make me a bad person
No.
for feeling like the relationship is incompatible? Or should I just set that desire aside?
Well, you have two options. One is you set it aside and you find other things that are pleasurable. Number two, you wait until maybe he's willing to try it sometime on a little basis. Or three, you maybe find somebody else to do it with once in a while.
Have you ever been in a situation with someone who the scope of their proclivities in bed is very limited?
I think a lot of people are like that.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe I just got lucky because I've only had less than a handful of people like that in my life who have either been with or dated. And
Well, you're looking at one right now, honey. Mind you, that was a long time ago.
Your scope is limited?
Well, let's just say I've seen the list that you have in front of you, and I wouldn't check all of the boxes.
Well, you don't have to check all the boxes. Hell, I'd probably even like 5 on that list. But you know what? Since we're going to talk about that list, you know what? Let's just get into that.
Holy cripe, that's 3 pages of it. All right.
Let's just get into that.
Better here. And there happens to be a very good LCBO on Front Street, and they're here in the
is.
market, which is literally a 5-minute walk from where Alex lives. And so I have no excuse for not stopping by and picking up something. So there we go.
Cheers. Thank
Cheers.
you.
All right. Now,
One thing and things I love about the Spanish people, because they will drink cabas and bubblies for any reason, just because it's Friday. They celebrate life. Those girls know how to live.
Porque es viernes. See?
Exactamento.
Sí.
We need to learn to enjoy life and take a page out of the Spanish book.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Let's continue.
Look, I'm looking at your list from it's backwards to me, and I'm thinking a lot of those things aren't kinks. I mean, they're
these are
just...
all kinks. And when I start to get into them...
All right, I want to hear the list. Let's go.
All right, let's go. Cum swapping and snowballing. Yes or no?
Is that a kink? Yeah, probably is.
Yeah, it goes in line with cream pie. You know what that is, right?
What's the snowballing? I don't know. Is that that's the term given to snowballing? See, when I was a kid, snowballing was you go out in the snow and you throw snowballs at each other.
Well, I guess you're throwing something.
Mm-hmm.
It's when someone comes in your mouth, and then you spit it back into their mouth, and they spit it back into your mouth, and they spit it back into their mouth, etc. Oh my gosh, ladies and gentlemen, you should see his face. That is snowballing.
Grimace. Okay, well, I'll prefer the summer weather. Thank you.
And I say, and cream pie's next on the list because it's close. Because cream pies is where the person comes in your ass, and then you suck it out, and then you spit it back into their mouth.
See, that to me isn't. If that's a kink, that to me is weird. But I'm sorry, that's just weird.
It is.
What percentage of the...
We're trying to keep an open mind
I'll
here.
be open. I'm open. What percentage of our listeners would check that box?
Well, we don't know.
No.
I'll be surprised.
It's
you would be surprised. We have over 1,600 folks on the Discord that listen to this podcast, and some of those girls are kinky. They're freaky bitches.
We should put a list on there and
Freaky
let people
fucking
check.
bitches. I could have done a poll. That's what we'll do. We'll do a poll for this for this one. Next, frothing. Not frothing. Frotting. Yeah, froth. Yeah.
I've never heard the word.
It's like, like a cappuccino machine that froths the milk. It's like you take the cum and you froth it in your mouth. Like... and they create bubbles.
No, I don't do that.
Well, it's
I've never heard of that word. I've never seen it done. Carry on. What's next?
denim.
Denim.
Yeah, just
How is that a kink? I'm wearing denim right now. Are you saying I'm kinky because...
No, but it's not just like denim. It's like you're not wearing anything but denim. Like you go.
I could take my shirt off and then...
There are even porns where it's just people in joggers or in like sweatpants or in denim, and they start making out, and it turns people on.
Okay, so in other words, it's a way to increase sexual interest, excitement, intimacy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a kink.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's a kink. All right.
Yeah. That turns some people on. So like you're I know you're a jeans guy. I don't wear jeans. Have you ever seen me in jeans? No.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't wear jeans.
I was thinking that coming down here. I thought, I wonder if I should wear a different pair of slides. Maybe shorts because it's warm outside.
Yeah.
But I thought, no.
Shorts I do wear a lot, but I don't wear jeans. But it's a whole fetish for some people. They love to see someone's ass in jeans, or some people like to see people in sweatpants or joggers because how they like to see the dick, the swing. They like to see the swinging,
The schlong schlinging.
the schlong slinging. They like that. It's a thing. It's a kink. Facial hair.
I have a little bit today. Does it turn you on? I haven't shaved for 3 days.
You look like an adult baby.
An adult baby. Well, okay. It means I should be shaving when I go home. Okay, got that one.
I know your new guy thinks that it will look good on you, but I like the business norm, the clean cut norm. Yeah.
Norm does too.
But what
actually.
you
I'm
should
just
do
lazy.
is grow your hair out a little bit more.
Oh.
Because when your hair is growing out, it's sexy.
See, I like it shorter because I look younger.
I don't necessarily think that it makes a difference. I think when it's more higher, it just gives you more of a boyish look. But
there's another kink, the boyish look.
Speaking of daddies and sons,
I don't think that's
not on my list,
there
but
you
it's
go.
a thing. No. I forgot to add that actually, daddy and son. It is actually a kink.
Yeah.
It is a kink. It is. Believe it or not. Speaking of right on theme.
You know what it comes down to? It's a preference for seeing or doing or experiencing something in a certain way.
It turns people on.
Yeah.
And again, as long as everybody who is participating is of consenting age
and open to it,
you are celebrated. Kudos to you. Facials,
yes. Now,
You
does
know,
that mean
facial.
good Kiehl's lotion on your face after you wash? Is that what you're talking about? Because
I'm not talking about chemical peels.
Because I do take care of my skin. Okay.
Ooh.
That's why that's why I look younger than I am. Yes, I know what facials
Phoenix,
are.
what do you want?
Attention.
My dog here is excited. Go to bed.
Oh, there's another kink.
That is actually on the list. Further down.
Way down.
Pop play. Since you brought it up.
Play. I don't know what.
Pop play.
P-O-T or P-O-P?
P-U-P.
P-U-P. Pop play.
Yeah. Yeah,
Really?
So if somebody's a master and then they have like a puppy, and you see those masks that the girls on Church Street wear, and it's like looks like dog masks. Yeah, and
I am being informed and educated today, folks.
oh, look at that! Wow, you're really sheltered.
You should. No, I'm not sheltered. I just don't have a broad range of interests. That's all. I'm satisfied with my.
I don't have a broad range of interests. No, so I remember like it was just a few years ago. I went to the Eagle, and I also saw this when I was in Berlin. Like there was just this guy who had two other guys. It was in all leather, which is actually on the list as well, which is just down here, but with 4 points later. Full leather gear. And he had two guys on either side on leash, and they were on all fours. And they had these dog masks on.
That is.
And they were all like doing woof woof, and like pretending to be puppies.
Well-
It's an actual kink, I swear to God.
To me, it's an act. That's an act.
Well,
In a bar,
for
come on.
you it's an act. For
To me, that's-
them,
to me, that's
it's a turn on. It's a and
okay. I'm educated.
I could go
I-
even deeper into
I would
to
walk
pop
away from
play, but because I'm not of that world, I don't really want to expound on that because I don't want to misrepresent
So,
this subsection of the LGBTQ community. I've always said I wish there was a kitten play, but there's no such thing as kitten play allegedly.
I see about 40 more on your list here. Are we going to go through every one? Or, I mean, I see suits on there now. That definitely is. So it's,
See, that's my category.
yeah. So really, kink is then, it's
Guys
something
who
that
I've
turns
dated
you
know
on.
that.
It's something that turns you on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys who I've dated knows that I love a guy, and so that's my kink. I love a guy
Have
in
you
a
ever
suit.
seen me in a suit? I don't think you have.
No, I haven't seen you in a suit.
No, I don't wear them
have
very
not.
often.
Not anymore.
No. Well, it's just not in the business world. It's, unless you're on Bay Street here.
The joys of retirement. You can wear jeans and a
I'm
t-shirt.
not retired. I am transitioning.
To
To be defined.
to be
Podcast
to be continued.
to be continued as life it goes on.
Next, feet.
Mm.
I know. I remember when I was a kid and I was going to.
I confess. That's all I'm confessing to.
Like, feet is a thing. I remember when I was younger and I was going to this LGBTQ program. There was the guy who I was in my teens. This is back in Cambridge, and at the community center there was this guy who was doing the program, and he was obsessed with feet, and he would openly talk about how much he liked guys with pretty feet, and it's like, oh, I like to push pretty pink toes in my mouth, and he would just go on and on about feet. And that
kinda
turned him
weird.
on.
That's weird. Carry on.
I'm so sorry. I thought my my thing was on mute. Anyhow, he would just go on and on about that. So I know feet is a big thing out there. Glory holes. Anonymous. I've actually had this happen to me as recently as last year, where a guy said to me, I want to meet up, but I wanted to be anonymous. I don't want any names, no nothing. And he's like, I can even put on a mask or a blindfold. Did I tell you this story? I never told this. Okay, so quick sidebar. So about a year ago, I met this guy, I think it was on Squirt. And I went to his place. So this was before I left for Europe. And I went to his place to meet up for a hookup. And I swear to God, I thought I was going to die. Because not only did he put the mask on, but there was literally plastic on the floor everywhere. Like plastic sheets all over the place. I'm like, this is Dexter 101. This is how people get murdered. This is how you get killed. Everything in my body was like, bitch, you're going to die today. All in the name of horniness. And he's like, oh no, I'm renovating.
He's renovating. Oh, that. Whew. Breathe a sigh of relief.
And he had a glory hole in his wall. Because he knocked out a hole in his wall that he temporarily he turned into a glory hole.
Was he in a house or apartment?
It's a condo. Yeah, an
condo.
apartment. It's a flat. People have that, like, anonymous and glory hole. It's a thing.
I would call that sort of on the deviant side. Sorry. That's a deviant kink. And maybe that's a way to classify kinks. Normal kinks and deviant kinks.
Okay.
Let's redraw this
But
list
normal, or we want to normalize kinks. Do we want to call them normal, or do we want to call them mainstream?
Well, mainstream is fine. I don't care the word. In other words, somebody wouldn't think of that as a.
Let's
they
stick
wouldn't
to the
do that.
status quo.
And remember, the straight world has a role here too. I mean, the straight world will participate in many of these kinks.
Or more.
Yeah, or different ones.
Them bitches are freaky.
Well,
Don't
it
let
could be-
straight people fool you. The nasty bitch.
Well,
Sorry. I know I have some straight listeners. I love you. We love you. Next, leather. I spoke about that
there's
already.
a leather festival. That's a big thing. Yep.
I
turn on.
told you I went to Leather Pride in Palm Springs last year.
Yeah, there's one in Chicago every year too.
It's massive.
Yep.
Massive.
But I don't think of that as a kink. I just
then
think
what?
of it,
Then
it's-
what would you
it's-
call it?
Well, it's it's a kink. I mean, it's a setting. It's an environment that draws you to that group of people.
Does it turn you? Well, not you, but does it turn people on?
Well, it may or may not, but they're attracted to people who are in leather. There could be a lot of people there they're not physically attracted to, but they like the leather scene.
Can I ask you a question, Norm? If you see a guy in because a lot of people discount clothing and how it can turn people on. If you see a guy in a really nice pair of trousers, for me, it's a nice suit.
Yeah.
That is nicely tailored.
Oh, yeah.
Well cut.
And if he's good looking, nicely everything fits. Yeah, sure, that's it.
Looking
it
very
looks
white
great.
collar, looking very clean. For me, that makes my dick hard.
Well,
Just as much as if I see a guy in a jumpsuit who is a tradie. There's just something
a
about
tradie.
tradie. Like a tradesman. Like a plumber.
Oh,
a
that
welder,
okay,
carpenter.
that kind of.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Bay Street Trader for a minute there. I was just kind of absurd.
For those who may not know, Bay Street is our version of Wall Street. It's where the stock exchange, the
Financial district.
the financial
Yeah.
district, yeah. It does turn people on, which leads to the next thing on my list: lingerie. Lingerie, like I remember I dated someone who would just he would go wild if I was in certain types of underwear, especially like mesh or thongs or a jockstrap. Just like it would become like a popular request.
I know someone who's turned on by thongs.
It's a kink.
Yeah, and
It's a
I
kink.
remember somebody, I'll be honest, who came over to my place once and said, I need to use the washroom for a few minutes. And he went, disappeared for 10 minutes and came out and dressed up in lingerie. And noticed I wasn't particularly enthused or stimulated. And that was the last time I saw him. But that was a kink.
It's a kink.
Yes. Yeah.
I it may be, this is what I talk about, mainstream versus what is for you. But not because something is not for you doesn't mean that you don't have to respect it, but you can set your boundary and say, hey, this is just not for me. And that's okay.
Well, I think if we were to take a survey of the number of people that participate in those various kinks you have on your list, there would be some that would have a higher rating and some that would have a very, very low rating.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've been accused of being vanilla before, and then I've been accused of being too wild. But
Vanilla? No. Well, if you're willing to talk about all this stuff, you're not a vanilla, honey. Trust me.
I've been called vanilla before, and then on the flip side, I've been accused of being.
How are we doing for time here, Captain?
I wish you didn't say that on the recording, but we're doing good.
Well, that's fine. No, we
We're
want to
18
entertain our
minutes in.
listeners. I want to make a couple points, though, about being in the kink situation and what do you do when you're... So carry on with the list, but...
All right.
let's,
Porn.
Yeah, that's definitely a turn on for some people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Watching porn together, especially as a couple. The use of poppers. Yeah.
Gives me a headache.
Poppers give me a headache
Oh,
too.
I couldn't stand them.
Can't stand it.
No.
And
It's like having ice cream and swallowing too much ice cream at the same time.
I don't understand how this turns some people on. And this is not me shaming anybody for the use of poppers. If it aids you in sex, good for you.
It's how your body
But
responds.
for me, like I just take one. I don't even I can literally just be at the club, and the girls are doing poppers, and I smell it, and I just get a headache.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, it smells like tar.
I hate the smell.
I'm
Yeah.
not a fan,
But some are into that.
but
and
some are into that, and
it's big in the
in my
bathhouses.
experience, this is my experience. I think about 5 or so years ago, I remember I was dating this guy his name is C. Let's just call him C. And C did every drug under the name of under the face of the sun. And I remember the first night we had sex, he started with poppers and then went into a whole bunch of different things, cocaine, you name it. And I was just there sipping my little cocktail, and I remember thinking to myself, will he be okay? I don't want to like have to deal with an overdose situation. And this was fresh out of my ex-fiance and I splitting up. Like I was just getting back into the streets. I was just horny. I just wanted to just get over, or I guess under something. And I was about 26 and just didn't know better. And I remember thinking to myself, what is this guy doing? And he would say, oh, this helps me, this helps. And he would take a sniff of the poppers and then go flaccid. And I'm like, if you're gonna be flaccid, then what's the point?
Yeah. I thought it was supposed to do the other way.
I thought it was supposed to go the other way. But I digress.
Yes,
you would
carry
realize
on.
chemsex, for those who do may not know what chemsex, you know what chemsex is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Chemsex, for our straight listeners, is just the use of chemicals in sex, or drugs in sex, or what the kids call P&P, party and play. It's a big thing. It's a big thing in the community, and it's a huge kink. It's a huge turn on for people. Even when you're on the apps, the girls will ask you, "Do you P&P?"
Yeah.
And
And
it's
if you
like,
say no, click, they go to somebody else.
they leave you alone. It's
I'm
a
not into
huge
that.
fetish. It's a huge kink. We mentioned leather and rubber already, but I digress from rubber to sex toys. And that's a big thing as well.
Yep.
I've been in relationships before where, we've had to, if we wouldn't get to that place of climax without the use of a sex toy. Which is sad, when you're at this age, but I digress. How do you feel about gears? Like sports gear, swimsuits,
well,
speedos,
as far as sex
etc.?
toys goes, as long as they're not battery operated, I can see the value of them.
No, battery operated. Now you want to have a sex toy that you wind up. Okay. All right, Daddy. We see you. We see you. That's okay.
They have to fit. That's all. They have to fit in a drawer, and they have to fit somewhere else.
and make no noise. No buzzing.
No buzzing and no battery operation.
Batteries not included. What do you think about sports gear?
Well, come on. I mean, you're really kind of going way. If I'm in the process of making love, I'm not about to go and put my bicycle or my hockey helmet on or my gloves or something like that. I mean,
well,
really,
that's why it's called making love. It's not fucking.
It's okay. Your list of kinks is very, very broad. What about when you just want to just have fun and just do it?
Define have fun.
Well, get it off.
Well, that's a kink too. It's
I
called
think that's
mutual
all.
masturbation.
Well,
it's on the list.
It's the climax.
It's on the list. Here it is. Mutual masturbation.
We've only got 20 more to list. Go
it's,
here.
it's on the list.
I need a refill. I need a refill. I think we're going to take a break here.
Want to take a break? Let's take a break after these three and then get a refill, and we'll be right back. So, underwear.
Yep. I mean, I see that on the chat lines. Yep, people like underwear.
I want to say that that's a big thing for me.
I'm a Hilfiger user, by the way, if anybody wants to know.
Threesomes and orgies.
Yeah, people ask for that.
I think that's a big thing for me too. Actually, Speaking of, we spoke earlier about 2019, Mexico. The guy that I dated, who also shall be called C, um, he said that the reason he reached out to me was because on my profile on my app, I said that I like to go into orgies and watching people, which technically isn't the kink itself. The kink is not orgies. The kink is voyeurism. I like watching people. That turns me on. I like sitting in my little corner, watching other people have live sex, which is ironic because I don't watch porn. I don't.
You'd rather
Porn
see
doesn't
the
turn
live-
me on, but I like to watch people have sex
It's
live.
kind of like hockey. You'd rather watch a real game than watch it on TV.
TV, exactly.
Okay, all
You
right.
get- yeah. It's the same thing, but with sex.
Well-
with a boner in your hand.
Well, let me talk about threesomes, because every now and then you get involved with somebody or talking to them online and they say, can you set up a threesome? And I feel like saying, listen, buddy, I spend most of my day trying to set up meetings of 2 or 3 people. Do you realize it's a hell of a thing to try to set up a threesome? The best threesomes in most people's experience happen spontaneously.
Really?
Yeah.
I was gonna say the best threesomes I've had were with couples, but
Well,
I guess
when it's 2 other people, you could call them a couple, whether they're a couple or not.
I guess they're one. And
speaking of a couple, I think we need a couple of new drinks.
we need to fill a couple of glasses. We will be right back. Ass play, beer backing, pause only. These are all
Pause only.
Yeah,
P-A-U-S-E or P-A-W-S?
POZ.
Okay. Pause only.
Yeah.
Only.
Like having sex with people who are only
That's just
HIV positive.
That's just a preference.
But it's a kink for some people. Like they hear that you're HIV positive and they get hard. Remember, kink is anything that makes
triggers a hard dick. That is simply
Pretty
the
much.
definition of a kink.
Pretty much. Even I remember there was this one guy who reached out to me like a few, like I want to say like it was while I was still in London, and he wanted me to meet up with him, and he said, "You have to shit on me."
Oh, I don't want to hear that. That's horrible.
And I said, "Well, I'm not really into that." And he's like, and it's not an unusual thing because one of my English friends as well said, "Yeah, I've had a situation where we're in Gran Canaria and we're talking about it." He's like, "Yeah, I've actually had a guy offer to pay me to shit on him." I think that's called scat.
Let's keep going.
That's
ugly.
then that's a thing. It's a kink. And when I said no, I'm not really into that. I'm more like into just general sex.
That's not healthy.
And he said, "Oh, I'm not interested in that." And he blocked me. He blocked me.
Good. Carry on.
Go
live. Let's go.
With that being said, ass play is also a big thing as well, where people and when I talk about ass play is different from rimming, because rimming is a whole art of like.
It's a whole. Are we on live now? You are a bugger, you know that. Because you control this, you start the recording before you tell me you are, and I get to say things I shouldn't be saying except privately. But anyway, carry on, folks. That's what I have to deal with here, folks.
I'm trying to get that authenticity out of you. That authenticity. But it's very different. Ass play doesn't necessarily mean that the person's tongue have to touch your ass.
Well, maybe like
But
biting or playing or
maybe
grabbing
like,
or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, most people like a butt. Come on, let's face it.
Who doesn't like a cute butt?
Yeah. I mean, I even had one person tell me at my church saying, "Norm, you have the best ass in the church."
I don't know if that is.
And I used to stand at the back too, so that's tells you
I don't know if that is appropriate speech for Jesus.
Well, he created it. Anyway.
Fair enough. But yeah, even role play.
Yeah.
And this
That's
is
a kink for sure.
it's a big kink. And
Yeah.
even as one of my straight girlfriends told me the wildest story about her doing a role play situation recently. And God forgive me, because I don't have her permission to tell the story. So I'm not gonna tell. I'm not gonna call any names. I know she listens to this podcast, but because she got all dressed up, went to the Four Seasons at the hotel bar to meet up with someone from a Tinder date, who ended up standing her up
Oh,
after having a full discussion about how they're gonna role play, and she was, and this was in winter. This is like 2 months ago. And
that's a bummer.
she was in her lingerie, and she had a trench coat over it, and she had the whole fantasy played out.
And she had to pay for her own drinks.
Well, there was a happy ending.
Oh, she met somebody else.
She met somebody
The
else.
person she was supposed to meet, probably.
He didn't show up, but she met somebody else, so it was all. It
Well,
wasn't for naught.
Maybe the person really did show up and that other person was him. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yes.
Dun
Yes.
dun dun. Plot twist.
Carry on with your list here.
And I
You
think
have
that
really done your homework.
the last
Folks,
thing I'm gonna talk about on this list is massage and touch. It's a very big thing for some people. Remember earlier the word I was struggling with, erogenous spots or erogenous zones. It's a very big thing for some people. And just being massaged, touched, tantric play. It's a big kink as well. And I don't think it's just limited to the LGBTQ community, to the
no,
tiggers.
it's physical. It's like certain parts of your body just trigger the hormones.
But getting into that touch aspect before you even get into the whole penetrative sex, or if you
don't go
even
that
do
far.
get there,
Yeah.
if you even go that far, it's a big thing. I didn't realize, I'm not really into massage or really into touch, but I went on a date with someone who was, and he insisted on giving me a massage and being tantric. And I didn't realize that it was something that I could come to.
Being tantric?
Yeah.
Did you say, what's that?
Tantric? You know what?
Oh, you're checking it up on your
I'm
tantric.
going to check up the trusty Googler.
See, folks, we have to define our terms.
So tantric means, it's the Sanskrit word for means woven together. People who practice Buddhism and Hinduism and meditation and practices also practice tantric sex as a way to weave the physical and the spiritual together. So, it's that thing like where you contort yourself into
United
these
in body, mind, and spirit, in other words.
Precisely.
Yes. I am the gift of words.
You namaste in bed. It's tantric sex is like yoga sex. And it can be physical, it can be non-physical, it can be penetrative and non-penetrative.
I don't want to work out when I'm having sex, let me tell you. But anyway.
Then what is the point?
Well, that's good exercise. Let's face it. It should be.
It should be.
It should get the heart rate.
Absolutely.
Now, what about, I see BDSM on here, and that's a big one for a lot of people. In fact, it's for 14% of the population likes that.
That's a very fair question. I actually had this very discussion with a friend recently, where the same friend who asked me about the whole blood thing, we were talking, one of my childhood friends, were talking about that, and they're really big into the BDSM community. Do you know what BDSM means?
Yeah, bondage, dominance, sadomasochism, that sort of thing. Giving, receiving,
Oh, look at you! You came prepared.
I did my homework, honey.
You came prepared because...
I mean, it's not my thing, but I know there are people that talk about it, and I don't want to be tied up, or I don't want to tie somebody else up, or I don't want to
Because
be
in our
calling
briefing
somebody
meeting,
names.
you were like, what does that mean? Bestiality? That sounds gross. And I was like...
Who said that?
You did.
I did not.
Yeah.
Putting words in my mouth again.
I'm about to choke this cup.
That's another kink, but I think that's totally a weird.
I don't know if that is a
that-
kink or just complete deviant.
Yeah, totally deviant.
Total deviant, as I said before.
Well,
But,
for BDSM, you got to agree the two people have got to agree on what's in and what's out. And
Even in a master-slave relationship, one needs to agree about what their boundaries are.
And if you've had enough, like I know of one situation where they use cards. Green means keep going, yellow means not quite as intense, and red means, honey, I've had enough, stop.
Well, in my experience, we have discussed safe words. And I
Okay.
remember
Safe word. That's another
Safe
way of
word,
doing
yeah.
it. Yeah.
a guy I dated because he really hated Trump. He really hated Donald Trump. And he said, if you just scream Trump, I'll stop spanking you.
Okay. So that was the no word.
That was the no.
What was
word.
the yes word?
The yes word?
The more, give me more.
The
Don't
yes.
tell me it was Biden because I don't believe that.
Oh God, Biden wasn't even running at that time. But it's one of those things where if you literally put yourself or you position yourself to have certain, much like what I said when we started this discussion, negotiations, having conversations, communication. What your
boundaries are.
Your
like you
boundaries
said.
are what is a hard stop for you. It's extremely important. Where it becomes dangerous, and this is a good segue to my next topic, where it becomes dangerous is or has ethical problems is when you start to or you're with someone who doesn't want to respect that boundaries, or their lack of respect for that boundaries, they're trying to play it off as dominance. That is where it becomes an issue.
Well, you got to trust the person you're with and know the person you're with so that won't happen. And if you get into that situation, I mean, that is not pleasant.
Well, I've had situations like that, and this is something I want to share with other sons who may be listening, who may have been as foolish as I was, or may just be exploring the way I am, and I got myself in a situation with someone who didn't respect my boundaries. They were very controlling. They would physically abuse me, and I never saw it as abuse because
that's horrible.
after the sex there was cuddling, and I thought that this was good because after the sex they were cuddling, but I would just be so traumatized. I would leave his place after the cuddling and after the sleep the next day, and I'd go home and I'd cry myself in a corner because...
In other words, this happened more than once?
Oh yeah, we were in a full-on relationship, and he would tell me what to wear, how to dress, how to carry myself, what to eat.
That is totally dominant. You don't seem like the type that is willing to be to submit to somebody like that.
But I again, I was in my 20s, and I found that that was a long time ago. That was just 3 years ago, and I was exploring, and at first I was flirting with the idea, but a lot of this flirtation with the idea came from media representation. It was what I saw being romanticized in the media. We were going through the 50 Shades era. We were going through the Twilight era. We were going through the 365 days era, and being fed bullshit, romanticizing Stockholm syndrome and all these different things.
I don't know what those words are over my head. All I can say is, if it doesn't feel right, get away from it. What are you putting up with it for? Why?
Well,
once I could see letting you happen, bingo. I don't want to do that anymore.
When you're young and you don't know better, and not to say that I'm not young anymore.
Your boundaries aren't as well developed.
But you're not. No, it's not even so much your boundaries are not as well developed, but you're not as equipped to articulate your boundaries to someone.
Ooh, that's a really, that's almost another topic. Boundaries. That's really cool. That's a very profound thing you just said.
It is not.
But you know in your heart whether you like it or not.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
You really, really
you
know.
You gotta just say, forget it. I don't want any more of this.
You see all these shows or movies or even porn.
Well, maybe you don't even see that.
And I remember I told you, half the things that I've done or dabbled into came from me watching porn, from me seeing certain forms of media where I thought that this was normal. I thought this was okay. I thought this is going to be lovely. I'm going to love this. Only to get pissed on, and I'm like, I don't like the texture. This doesn't
Well,
feel. This is too warm for me.
I guess I have always known. Too warm for me, yeah. I guess, people of you the feedback you've had from me is I'm boring and I'm conservative, and yeah, I guess I am. I couldn't tolerate shit like that. I would want to run from that as far away. That would just turn me.
But I don't know if that is well, maybe that's just you, Norm.
That's
but in my honest opinion, most of the big dick deviants I've met in my life are men over 50. Including the guy that I dated who used to like slap me up in bed and wanted other guys. I literally drew the line when he wanted his homies to run a train on me, and I was like, it's one thing when it's just you and I, you're beating me up in bed, but it's another thing, paddling me, but it's another thing when you want to bring other people into the bedroom. Deuces. You know?
Well, you do like orgies, you said, so I don't know why that would be a problem.
Because I don't want to participate. I like to watch.
Okay, you want to watch.
I am a voyeurist. That's my kink. You know?
So
let's get it
kinks.
right.
There's orgies participant. There's orgies voyeur.
Yeah.
All these subsets. My goodness, we could have an org chart here of all the different
I'm
kinks.
telling you, literally, like them detectives with the red lines, with the red string. You could connect the dots with this one.
So what's the bottom line on this topic? I mean, we've been talking about this now for a good 30, 40 minutes. Kinks are okay.
Are you going to rush me?
Well, I'm trying to bring us to a kind of a conclusion of where we're going with this. Yeah.
Well,
is that okay? Even though you're the producer,
I'm the producer, so I will conclude when I damn well want to conclude.
Well, I think we should respect our listeners, and that we want them to sort of get something from this, and we're sort of saying, what's the point of all this? But carry on.
If they're not entertained, they will stop listening.
Well, that's true.
Okay. Well, don't rush me. Don't rush me. With that being said, there are a couple more topics that I want to get into. Intersectionality on Kinks, which we kind of have.
What is that?
Kind of discussed.
Intersectionality,
yeah.
What the hell is that?
Intersectionality.
No, I'm not.
The cross section. Think of a giant Venn diagram, and think about like you and I.
Yeah.
Daddy, son. Black, white.
Yeah.
Kinks. How does this Venn diagram intersect? Where are there places in that Venn diagram and these various topics where we can agree on? Where are places or points that we don't agree on? How do you see this versus how I see this, not just as an older person, but an older white person? And how do I see this as an older black person? I genuinely, and I think I have a one-liner for this. As the youngest millennial and the oldest Gen Z, I've born on the cusp. I do believe that I'm way more open-minded, even if it's something that I'm not willing to try, but I'm willing to be respectful of people's kinks. I am very open to trying certain things as long as it's not, I don't believe it's going to cause me harm. And I believe that my generation of people are more open to trying things, even if it will cause them harm, but doing so responsibly. Like, I don't know.
Well, how do you do something that's harmful but being responsible? That to me is inconsistent.
Like I said, like fisting. It can be harmful.
Yeah.
Left with a big old fissure in your asshole. But then you can also like do some research and do it with someone who knows what they're doing.
That could hurt the person who's doing it, because if they can't get it out, that's a problem for two people.
That's a whole other conversation. But what's your one-liner on intersectionality?
I still don't understand Venn diagrams are something we did in physics in grade 11. So I'm sorry, I'm not really following you on this one.
That alone is a statement of its own, and you don't even know it. And you don't
By
even
the way,
know
this
it.
wine is really good. I'm really enjoying this.
It's really
this
good.
cava.
I know.
We're only half
You don't need. You
finished
don't
it.
need to have. You don't need to have a reason to celebrate life. You just drink bubbly because it's Friday, and we love that.
A
Cheers to
long
that.
weekend, yes.
To a long weekend. Lastly, I just want to say to our listeners, as we have touched on so many various things, I've discussed kinks, I've discussed fetishes, I've been rushed, and I've been patronized by Norm.
Oh, that is not true. You've certainly not been patronized. Come on now.
You've heard the recording for yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. And with
This is how we talk, by the way, folks. This is real. What you hear is what you get.
And with that, I want to, provide the listeners with some resources for further education and support. And some just encourage listeners to seek out help and safety, and inclusive spaces if they want to explore these interests.
And be respectful of your partner
be
in
respectful of your partner.
in every
I
situation.
do encourage folks to. There are lots of articles and forums online. We had an episode where we talk about apathy. Apathy. That's entitled Apathy, where we spoke about various dating apps that are more skewed towards daddy and son. Most of these apps, particularly Squirt, do have a forum. Dudes Nude do have a forum that are big on these topics. And if you are even thinking about these from any of these kinks, they do have forums where you can meet people who are subject matter experts or experienced in these kinks that you can speak to in a forum. Reddit itself, which is also not a dating site, but you can meet other people who are into this and get very valuable information.
But at the end of the day, if I may say, do what feels comfortable.
Do
if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. It won't help you.
Yeah, but that's there are some people who may not feel like something doesn't feel right to them, but that's because that's what they were told.
Well, but at the end of the day, you will know what you experience.
But you may want to try something, but
fine.
you choose
Try
not
it.
to because...
Well, you may try it, and if you like it, fine. If you don't, that's okay too.
Yeah.
Do something else.
That is okay too.
There's lots of things you can do to enjoy a sexual experience, and the thing about life is you experiment, you try things, and maybe some things work with one partner that don't work with somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Listen to Daddy's advice. If it feels strange, rearrange.
There's one for you.
If you are in Toronto,
that's a good one, Alex.
There are really good community centers. There are really good places that you can reach out to. Community centers like the 519. They offer a wide range of programs where you can learn and explore about these form of topics in a safe space. They provide counseling and support groups and resources. If you are being abused, or you feel like you're being abused, or you feel like you're in an abusive situation, even if it's sexual, they do also provide support for people who, even if you suspect that you may be in a situation like this.
And do you have to be in Toronto for this, or does it matter?
519 is in Toronto, darling.
So, but that's in person, but is it virtual? Is it, can people access this service from outside of Toronto?
I believe
or the rest of the world?
I believe that they do offer services virtually as well, but you would at least have to be a resident of Ontario.
Well, I guess the bottom line is, if you don't live in Ontario, look for a community resource if there is one in your area.
If there is one in your area. The Canadian Rape Crisis Center or Multicultural Center is also a great resource, as well as the LGBT youth line. Their number is 647-694-42 4275. That is 647-694-4275. You can also reach out to them online. They have a chat, 24-hour chat support. And this is like if you need support around learning how to navigate, even something as simple as how to put on a condom.
Holy Toledo. So that would be available to anybody. I mean, if that's virtual, it's on the net.
It's
can be anywhere.
specific for LGBT,
but not limited to geographically. Is my
but
point.
it's not limited geographically.
That's a good service.
As long as you're Canadian, and I know that there are listeners here internationally.
Well, how would they know? How would they know? Are we going to track the URL address on this?
I don't know, but maybe they'll track.
You know what, folks? Call them up if you need to, or get online. Forget about wherever you're from. I find there's a lot of African people online now that are looking for support and interest and stuff. So you know what?
Girl, they would need it, but to not sound condescending. There's also PFLAG. PFLAG, if you are a parent of someone who's LGBTQ, and you want to have the conversation with your son, or your kid or your trans kid about of this particular topic about kinks and getting around kink shaming or sex in general, there are PFLAG means Parents, Families, and Friends for Lesbians and Gays. PFLAG and PFLAG Canada does have resources around discussing sex and sexual matter. With kinks, they have resources and referrals, as well as sexual abuse support, both in person and virtually, as well as the counselings, the Toronto LGBTQ Counseling Services Forum. You can find that online. Women's Health. SOY, which comes out of the Sherburne Health Center, means supporting our youth. It's a weekly drop-in program. Any LGBTQ person who may be interested in exploring more about their sexuality or need sexual health help can do this program. You can reach out to the Sherburne Community Health Center to get more information on this, as well as if you are Black, the Black Coalition for AIDS Prevention. Shout out to Black Cap, because I used to sit on the board for Black Cap, and they have multiple programs around this, not just HVHM and socialite, but harm prevention programs as well, if you do believe that you may be in an abusive situation. Lastly, you can just call 911. One of the great things about the Toronto Police Services is that they do have community officers and social workers who, anytime that you believe that you're in a situation, you don't even have to file a police report, but they will connect you to services that are in your region, whether in Durham or Peel, Toronto, Core. They will connect you to services that will help you. And this could be even something you may be, I am into bondage, and I maybe was in a situation with someone where it went a little bit overboard, and I can't tell if this is abuse. I can't tell if this person taking advantage of me, or this person just got carried away. And you may not know. The cops will be able to help you make this determination. They won't just lead to an arrest because you call the police. The special constables or the detective on the case will make an informed decision from the case itself, and then take it from there. Do not be afraid to reach out to 911.
Well, the Toronto Police have stepped up their services in this area since and I can't remember the guy's name, but this was 7 or 8 years ago when there several people were killed, and they were ignoring the murders that were going on in the gay community.
Oh, the planter killer.
Yeah.
The gardener killer, the guy who would kill people and put their bodies in planters of his clients.
And they've definitely stepped this up a lot.
Ooh, you know what I want to do? Next Alex production, I want to get into that. I want to do true crimes in the LGBT community.
That was a great failure on the Toronto Police.
I want to do true crimes. Yes, let's do a true crime episode. What do you guys think? Leave it in the comments section. Let us know if you want to do a true crime.
That was a sad, sad situation for the gay community 10 years ago.
It was.
Very, 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 people just missed the signs completely.
We're gonna get in. I'm gonna do a true crime episode. I like that. With that being said, any last words you want to give on? Any last thoughts on Kinks?
Well, other than the fact that I wasn't comfortable doing this topic initially, because it's just not something I talk about a lot, but it was a good discussion, and I
You're
think
such a boomer.
we kind of explored a lot of things. I think younger folks are maybe a little bit more open to stuff. Remember, I grew up in a time when you didn't even talk about being gay, let alone about all this other stuff. So, but I also want to give a shout out to you, Alex, because when I listen to podcasts on the radio or on my phone, and I'm going to work or I'm going to the gym or whatever, and they sign off, and they're always saying, well, we want to thank so-and-so who produced this, and so-and-so who did this, and so-and-so who did that. You're the only one that puts these things together when we're finished. So a shout out to you, because we do this ourselves, folks. We don't have any other help. And Alex, he does have the control of the pen. He can decide what goes on, what you hear, but he's the one that does the work after we've sat and talked for an hour or so. And so thanks a lot, Alex. You're doing great stuff. And a 1-year anniversary celebration.
Thank you.
We're going for dinner afterwards to celebrate.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. You okay? You okay? I'm fine. Let it out. Let me hit your back. And a little bit of bubbly went down the wrong path for Norm. You alright? Yeah. While he recovers, I want to thank you all for listening to today's episode. If you made it all the way to the end, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Daddy and Son. If you have any questions for the show, send them over to daddyandsonpodcast@gmail.com. That's DADDYANDSON podcast@gmail.com. Until next time, sons, be good to your daddies.
Daddies, be good to your sons.
Have a good long weekend. Bye.